Welcome to my channel. My name is Cassie, and this is finally my wrap up for April and May. We're throwing April in here because I only read two books in April. Um, but they were two of the three books that I was supposed to read for my official TBR in April. So I am a smidge smidge proud of myself on that, just a smidge. So the first book I read was The Book of Azrael, which is book one in Gods and Monsters by Amber V. Nicole. So, I think, what did I give this? I gave it a 4-star. I'm trying to remember my thoughts because it's been a little bit a minute. I think that there were some things that I didn't quite understand what was kind of going on. But of course, this is only book one. So, there may be another book. I mean, there are other books to read. So I do plan to continue with the series. I did like, I probably should have silenced my phone, but live and learn. I think one of the things, the reason why I gave it a 4-star, I thought it was a little on the long side. I think that some things could have been explained a little bit better that were explained. And then I also kind of thought that the main characters a little bit, sometimes they kind of annoyed me. Just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. But it is definitely an enemies to lovers romantasy type book. But it has, it's got a decent amount of plot in it. A good amount of plot in it. I just kind of wish I knew where the plot was going. But I guess I'll figure that out if I read, or at least figure it out more if I read book 2. So this was the first book that I read, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one that I read was The Stowaway by James S. Murray and Darren Wearmouth. And now we need to see what I gave this one. It's been a while. 3 stars. That makes sense. So you're probably like, why'd you give it 3 stars? Well, the main character bugged me. She was very much like, thought that just because she was part of this case in the beginning of this, that just automatically made her like the expert on everything going on during this book. And like, she could not be wrong, and no, she wasn't paranoid, and like, she's not a forensics person, she's not a police officer, she's not a detective. She just happened to be on the jury. And also, I'm also kind of like because of her profession, I almost feel like she wouldn't have been able to be on the jury just because of her profession. But I don't know. I'm not sure. But she just really kind of bugged me for the majority of this book. I liked the ending of the book. And like how it just kind of shaked out who the who the killer was, and like everything that kind of led up to his reveal. Although again, she kind of bugged me on that a little bit too, but we're not going to get too far into that. But yeah, 3 stars. So those are the 2 books that I read in April. So now we're going to get into the 5 books that I read in May. Alright, so next we have the 5 books that I read in May. I actually read 5 books in May. I'm very proud of myself, especially because 3 of them are chunky. Okay, they're chunky books. And like these first 3 books that I read that are really chunky, I read like in 6 days. So, like back to back 6 days, thereabouts. So, I'm really proud of myself for May. Are any of them on the official TBR? You know, now that I think about it, I honestly don't even remember what books were on May official TBR. Um, I do think that one of them was supposed to be a rom-com, and so I do kind of have a rom-com that replaces the rom-com that I think I was supposed to read. And then I think one was a spinner wheel, and then another one was a pole pick. And so I kind of can't replace either one of those. So I didn't read those 2. But I did kind of read one in a way. But that's only because I'm kind of swapping out with a different rom-com that I actually read in May. But anyway. Excuses, I know. So the first one was Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. This was a 5-star read for me. I loved this book. Okay. Now, it did take me a while. Like, I've tried reading this book a few times. And, like, I could never get past the first chapter. Or the second chapter. Like, I always got stuck there and then I would put it down. I finally got past those chapters. And, like, once you start getting probably closer to around, I want to say chapter 5, 6-ish, around there, like, it really starts picking up. I loved the banter between the 2 main characters. They definitely kind of start off like they do not like each other at all. At least that's the way it seems in the beginning. But you learn something towards the end. But I cannot wait for the sequel to come out, like, here in the next couple of months, because this was an amazing book, and I loved it. It was this was my first 5-star, maybe, of this year. So I'm like so happy that I finally read this book, and I want the second one in my hand, which brings us to the next book, which is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. If that was a 5-star book, this is like a 6-star book. This was amazing. I loved this book so much. And anyway, so I loved this book. I loved the world that it was in. I loved the different creatures. I loved, like, the magic system that they kind of had going on. Which wasn't really, they didn't really go into a lot of the magic because it was mostly kind of secretive. But it was kind of based a lot on, it seemed like, on contracts and stuff like that. And only certain people, or certain type of people, could make and use this magic and, like, make these contracts. And one of the, like, older contracts is a Shield of Sparrows. And it kind of keeps all these kingdoms from starting wars with each other. And essentially, it just means that they have to, like, intermarry in the royal family. Like, this princess has to marry that country's prince, or that prince has to marry that one's princess, or what have you, depending on, like, age and whether or not they're, got a prince or a princess or what have you. And so the girl in the country that was supposed to be the Shield of Sparrows to marry the main character prince, well, they come to this country and they're just like, you know what? We're going to use this other contract that's even older than the Shield of Sparrows one that will override it. And so we get to pick our bride for the Shield of Sparrows. And it's not her, it's her sister. Just, like, out of left field. Just, like, they chose who they wanted as their Shield of Sparrows to marry this prince, like, years ago. They've been training her since the very beginning, and then all of a sudden they just come in and they're like, nope. We want the sister, and the sister has not been trained at all for any of this. And so she gets thrown into like this whole situation. But I don't think that I ever really got irritated with her because she seemed kind of realistic in how she kind of acted for the most part on being thrown into this type of situation. But like the creatures in this world, like the banter, like all of it, the twists, the ending. Stephanie Perry, I know you are not watching my video, but if you are, when is the sequel coming out? Because I need it. I need the sequel to this book. This is probably like the first 6-star read that I've ever had. Like, I enjoyed it that much, and I need it in my life. But anyway, I love this book. I just loved it. Okay, moving on from that. So I made a little bit of a mistake in jumping into the next book. What I probably should have done was had a palette cleanser in between, but I didn't. I didn't do that. I just jumped right in. And so this probably did not hit me maybe the way that it should have. I'm not sure if we're being honest. But that is Silver Elite by Dani Francis. So about this. I did find some things annoying about some of the main character, especially like in the beginning. Like there was definitely some irritation in the beginning of the main female character and some of the things that she would do or say or how she would think about something. Even though I think she's like in her early 20s in this, a lot of her thoughts to me still were very kind of YA and how she was thinking of certain things or how she thought of doing certain things. And how she reacted to things. But one thing that got me is that I kind of went into it thinking, like, with everybody saying, oh, it's a lot like, it kind of reminds them of the Hunger Games, like dystopian romance, like, and like it reminded them of Hunger Games. And so when I went into this, I was thinking Hunger Games. Well, then I get kind of upset because it's not Hunger Games. Like, it does not in any way remind me of Hunger Games. I was around when they first published the Hunger Games and Divergent and Maze Runner and all those dystopians. Like, this is not the Hunger Games to me in any way. If it was like any type of dystopian, it would probably be closer to Divergent. But even then, it's not Divergent because Divergent, I think, is more politically inclined, and not like a whole, not as much romance, I want to say. And so like if I had to compare this to any type of dystopian, I would say that it is closer to Divergent. Is it exactly like Divergent? No. Maybe 50% type like Divergent. But it is in no way reminds me of the Hunger Games. So that was kind of a letdown, and I think that also kind of affected my rating on top of the slight irritation in her character in the beginning. She did like get a little bit more tolerable, I want to say, towards the end. And I did like the banter. I did like the world, and I did kind of like the whole mutation power type situation. I did like all of that. It was just, the whole, it just didn't hit anywhere near as powerful as it might have if I hadn't read Shield of Sparrows first. And if I hadn't gone into it thinking that it was going to be like Hunger Games, which it's not. So yeah, I only gave this a 4-star. So then we have the next book, which is where I am kind of like, instead of the rom-com that I had to read in May, this one kind of replaced it. And I was Go Luck Yourself by Sarah Rosh. I don't know if you can really, a lot of glare going on. Maybe. I do not own this book, but it is the second book in the Royals and Romance. I think the first one was The Nightmare Before Christmas. I only gave this one 3 stars. The character the main character kind of annoyed me a little bit. I didn't find the brother in the first book nearly as irritating. And I know that there is a reason why the younger brother that we're following in this book is like possibly, thinking the way that he's thinking, which is kind of irritating. I know that there's a reason there, but I think that it might go, or it just, I don't know. It just lasted a long time, the way that he was, like, his mind was thinking, and I don't know, there was just something about it that just didn't, it was just irritating to me. But I still liked the premise of it, where you have, Christmas and apparently St. Patrick's Day's prince. You have all these different holidays where they all have like their own kind of king, queen, or princes or princesses or what have you, and you have the spring holiday court, you have the winter holiday court like type situation, the fall one, and it's very interesting. And like kind of the way that they get their powers on a joy scale, which the joy scale is based on people around the world, just normal everyday people, and how much joy that they feel during these holidays. And so that's kind of how they get their magic to be able to do these holidays and whatnot. So, if they have a lot of joy, well, then they have plenty of magic to do better the next year and hopefully get even more joy. But if there's not a lot of joy that's happening, or a lot of like people that believe in the holiday and feel joy about it, they don't get as much joy on that magic meter. And so they have to be very specific in how they try to use their magic to make the holiday, better next year, or, how they're gonna use magic throughout the year. Like, it's a very interesting magic system. So, I enjoy the premise, I enjoy the world, the magic system and everything. I even enjoyed like some of the couples and like some of the bantering and everything. But then there's just like some moments where it was just kind of annoying, kind of irritating. But overall, it was a decent read. So 3-star, solid 3-star. Then I have the last book that I just read yesterday. And honestly, I did not know that this existed until 2 days ago. And that was when Netflix premiered Department Q. And I was like, you know what? It's got Matthew Good in it. I want to look into it, because I like him as an actor generally. I haven't really seen a lot that he's been in, but what I have seen, I've generally liked him in it. And I usually like crime TV shows and stuff like that. And I really wish that they would stop canceling the TV shows like that I like, that are kind of crime based. Like they stopped what was it, The Prodigal Son. I was really enjoying that one, and then they just kind of ended it in the middle of season 2. They didn't even finish season 2. They just ended it. But anyway, so I watched episode 1 on Netflix, and then at the end of episode 1, they were like, oh, this they have the screen of like, this is the end of the series. I'm like, no, that was only episode 1 of 9. And so, I backed out on, I pressed circle button on my PlayStation. And then it was like, there were no episodes at all. It was just a trailer. And I'm like, what is going on right now? I'm so confused. I swear that this just released today. It was there because I just watched episode 1. Well, then I backed out again. And usually it would be in like your recently watched or you want to continue type list. It wasn't there. So then I went to search. And I searched it, and it was gone. It was just gone. Like, it never existed. And so I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I go to look it up. Like, if anybody else is having these issues with this show on Netflix. And apparently, it was like pretty much a worldwide situation. And at the end of this thread that I was reading on Reddit about it, somebody mentioned that, I don't know what's going to happen, but actually I do because I read the books. I was like, wait a minute. This is a book series? It's a book. What is the series called, right? Well, I found the first book. And the first book is The Keeper of Lost Causes by Jesse Adler Olson. Oh, that's going to be terrible to see. There you go. It's kind of sideways, but yeah. So this is essentially about a man that when he goes into a crime scene in the beginning, like him and his partner and somebody else, they get injured. One of the officers dies. His partner's like paralyzed or something, and he gets injured. He's out of the line of duty, like work for a few months recovering. And when he gets back, like, he's one of those people that is very kind of like House almost. He's really smart at what he does. He sees a lot of things that other people don't. He makes a lot of connections that other people don't. And so he has like he just doesn't care how anybody really sees him when he kind of, points out, their mistakes or what have you, because he's like, this is very serious business. When it comes to trying to catch these criminals and stuff, and if he thinks that somebody's not doing as they're supposed to, or, looking at the clues like they should, or looking into things as they should, he doesn't have a lot of friends. Okay? And so the chief hears from somebody in the Congress or something or another, and he's like, you know what? They're pushing for this. They're pushing for cold cases from all over the country to be sent to a department here in this police station to solve cold cases, and they're going to throw all this money at it so that, they can solve these cold cases, because there was like some kind of a podcaster or something that brought attention to a cold case or something that was finally solved, and it was great for PR and all this other stuff. And it really got people of the country like cheering on for law enforcement. So they're like, we want to continue this trend. We want to, solve these cold cases from all over the country. And so we're going to throw all this money at it. And all these cases from all over the country are going to be sent here to this specific department, which I guess is like in the capital of this country. And, you pick who's going to be over it, and you get to decide where the money gets allocated for this department, what have you. Well, of course, they're understaffed and whatnot, like regular homicide unit. And so they're like, you know what? We're just going to put this guy, Carl, his name is Carl. We're just going to make him the head of this department. And it's a department of him. And they put him in this really shitty, like, office area. And, like, they give him, like, the minimal amount of, anything that they can possibly give him, while using all this other money to spoof up and hire for the homicide unit, which is a completely different department. But they, they were like, oh no, you don't, just spend the money however you want to spend it or something. And for the Department Q, but I guess that they're saying that they're getting all of this for Department Q, but they're actually not. So they're kind of that's fraud. But anyway, it's a book. So they've got he's now the head of this department, and he's got to solve cold cases. And so I think this entire series is just like every book is going to be a different cold case and how he goes about being able to solve them. And so I gave this, I think, a 3.5, because it's not really my jam, because, it's not fantasy or anything like that, but I still enjoyed the book itself. So, kind of, it's not, it was kind of slow in some portions, because, mystery, and they're moving around, they're going, there's a past, there's a present, like, it was a very interesting read. So I give it about a 3.5. Might be about maybe 3.75, but not quite a 4. So I definitely plan to continue reading in this series eventually. I don't know if I'm gonna immediately pick up the next book or not, but hopefully soon, within the next couple of months maybe. But there's so many books that I need to read. It's not even funny. But anyway, so those are the 5 books that I read in May. So between April and May, I read, wow, I can't count, 7. Read 7 books. And that, for my Goodreads goal, puts me at 51%. And we just got to June, so I still actually have a month, like the whole month of June, to read more books. So I got to a little over 50% before the end of the middle of the year. So kind of excited about that. A little proud of myself that I accomplished that. But anyway, that is it for this video. Sorry it took me so long to get this wrap up, especially when it comes to the April reads. But if you like this video, like it. And if you want to see more of me, subscribe. But until next time, bye!